So in this video we will be doing a project, and it is called as the voting app, where this application allows you to vote. So what can happen is, if your family of 10 or 15 people, all your relatives and everybody is planning to go on a trip or a vacation somewhere, and you guys are not able to decide to which location that you guys want to go to, you can create this app and share it and put it on the Netlify platform. You can host it on the Netlify platform for free, and then later on you can share it with your family, and everybody can access your application and then vote. Or if you are a student and you're doing computer science engineering or any other course, and you will have some electives in your semester, so if there are 60 students in your class and all of you are just fighting over what elective you guys want, you can just create this application and share it with your friends and tell them to vote. So once they do that, all of you can decide on which elective everybody wants to choose. So this is a basic voting app, and it's quite simple and easy to do, and it's just a small React application example. So go ahead to Git Bash, and here let's create. So let's do npx create React app. Okay, so before we do this, let's head over to our location. Sorry, so I should have told you this earlier. So let's head over to the location, and there we'll install the create React app. So let's go to desktop, and once we go to desktop, we'll go to React apps, and in React apps we will be in the React apps directory or the folder, we will be creating our create React app. So I will call this as voting, and then I'll click on enter. This might have taken some time. It takes a couple of minutes. There are a lot of things, and it has been installed finally. It might take some time, and you can wait for it. Now we can close this, and we can go ahead to React apps, and when we look it up, the voting folder is right here in our React apps folder. That's where I wanted it to be. Now let's go head over to Visual Studio Code. Let's open our folder. Now we are in the voting file, and here we can see our index.html. Here we can just remove all of these in our public file. Just remove the comments if you want to. Save this, and you can head over to source, and here in source you can go to index.js. You can remove this as well, and let just this be. We don't need to make any more changes here. We will just be making changes in our app.js and our app.css. And let's start up the server first, and then let's go ahead and do that. So go to terminal and new terminal. See, you can do all of this in your integrated terminal, or you can go ahead and do this in Git. You can open Git and go to that particular file, that directory, and perform the same thing, but obviously this is much simpler. Now that's npm start. Let the server start, and we can go ahead and look it up. So once you started, it would say compiled successfully. We can go head over to our localhost 3000, and here we go. So let's just clear all of this up, and right here, let's just remove the entire thing. We will be creating a class component and not a function component, so let's remove that. We can remove this logo, and app.css can be there. So let's save this, and here in the app.css we can remove the entire thing and save this. Okay, so you can come back to your app.js, and right here we can start off by saying class app extends react dot component, and we can give it a constructor. We'll be passing props, obviously, and then super props. We will give it a state object with some values to it, and we can define an array. So what can we give? Like we can say resorts. Yes, we can. You can provide this to your family in your next vacation. So let's give resorts, or not resorts. Let's say locations actually. Anything, whatever you want to do. If you guys are planning on resorts and you're not able to choose the resort, then you can put it for vote. Now, the locations that everybody wants to travel to during your vacation, your holidays. So let's give it a name and a vote. So name shall be, let's go with Bali, and this is a string, so this has to be in double quotes, and right after this will be votes, and all the votes value will initially be at 0. So this is an array of objects, so we'll all put this together, and then we can just copy this and paste it like 4 times if you have 4 places in your mind. So let's copy the entire thing so that we don't have to put comma each time, and let this be as London, and here we can put something as some Berlin would be great, and finally we can go ahead with some European country, let's say Belgium. Now you guys want to make these 3 are close, so most people would want to go here because you can visit all 3 places, but one person just wants to go for a week just to Bali. So there are different kinds of people in your family as well, so according to them they can do the voting. So now right after this we can go ahead to our render, and we can render it right here. And in your render method we will be giving all the values, and then we can check it up. So let's give a return, and inside of return there's a h1 tag. So vote for your destination. Alright, so let's save this for now, and okay, you can go ahead and check it out. Okay, this vote for your destination has come. I don't want it to be here. I want it to be in the middle, but we will make changes to the app.css a little later. But for now, let's just continue with this. So let's just make this smaller and put it right here. Alright, so now vote for your destination. Now let's give it a div and a class name of locations, and we can close this tag, and inside of this tag we can map each of it. We can map each, because this is in an array, we've given locations in an array, we can loop over it, so they can map it. Map is another predefined in JavaScript, so we can this dot state dot language sorry, this will be locations. So that's what we have defined, right? This dot state dot locations, and we want to map over it. So this dot state dot locations dot map, and inside of map, let's give it a LOC, meaning LOC will access each of the index in the array. So LOC will go to the first one, then the second one, then the third one, and then the fourth. So this is a variable that we have defined that will map over each of the locations, right? And then let's give it an I. This is another variable that will keep the count and that the index value actually. So this will be like, this will increase each time. Now we can go ahead, open our brackets, and inside of this, once it has mapped, this is what I want it to show. So I'll give it another div with a class name and is equal to, I'll call this as vote count, and inside of vote count I will access lang dot vote. Now what happened here? Let's go over this again. So locations is what we are trying to access, that is all the 4 locations, and LOC, this is not lang, this will be LOC. I don't know why I typed lang, but anyways, so LOC will go over each of locations, that is it will go to first one, the 0th index, that is name, Bali, and votes is 0. Now that will be stored in LOC. Now I want to access the vote value here, so I will be saying LOC dot vote. So I'll be accessing only vote, right? Now in the next one, you might have guessed this, so I'll give class name is equal to location name, and here you are guessing it right, it will be LOC dot name. So that will be the return value. Then we'd want a button. So first let's save this. Now before we save this, let's see if all our divs are closed. This div is closed right here, and we forgot one thing, that is, so let's open a div here, and this will not be here, but it will be closed after this. So here in this div, I am going to give a key, and the key is nothing but I. So that is what the index value will be, key of I, that is key is equal to I. So the key value will be nothing but the index value, that will be 1, 2, 3, so whichever location. So this will be 0, 1, 2, 3. Here it will, each time it will give 0, 1, 2, 3. Each time it maps. So that's what is happening there. So we're giving it a unique key. Now the class name is equal to, let's say, location. Alright, so that is about it, and I think we can save this. There should be no errors, but let's just check it out. Now this bracket is closing right here, and this bracket is closing as well, but there seems to be some kind of an error, and that is because in map we have not open the bracket, because map is a method itself, and we have to close another bracket here. So you need to keep making these kind of checks, so your code editor will start screaming. Now there is another error. This is probably an extra one. This is for the return value, and then there's for render as well, and for your component. So let's save this and see if there are any errors. There is an error. Let's go see what the error is. So here it says adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. Okay, so there must be an enclosing tag. Now this div is closed right here, and this div is closed here. So there has to be a wrapper div. It cannot be open like that. It has to be in one wrapper div. So I don't want to put another div here. So I'm just going to open and close a tag, and I'm going to close that tag here, and I'm going to save this, and we must see. So it says vote for your destination. That's Bali, London, Berlin, and Belgium. But our app does not seem to be finished at all. There is no voting. There are no functionalities at all for this. So let's go ahead and give it a button so that when you click the button, the voting will actually work. The value can be changed. So let's do that now. So right here, let's give a button inside of this div called locations, or we can actually call it location. Okay, let it be locations itself. So inside of this div, that is this div right here, which is closed here, and inside of this div that is closed right here. So this div is closed here. You can bring it back up. And so the div is closed right here, and you can just see everything whatever we have done. So okay, let's continue with our app. Let's give it a button. So earlier, if you remember, you had done the count app where you had given count and we counted it. So we'll be doing something similar to that. This will be a complete app that was just for practice. So on click, you want to increase. So this dot vote dot bind, and it will be this comma I, and we are going to say close this tag, and I'm going to say click. Now what this does is it's going to bind your vote to your I, that is your index value. So as you increase it, that index value will increase. So if this is 0, 1, 2, 3, the first index is going to, second index is voted, third index is voted. So it depends on what you vote. Once you click it, just before render, let's give it the function of voting. That is the function that we're accessing. Remember, here on click is a method. So now if you're thinking that we accessed this, we're not. It might be some of you would have made this mistake. I'm not saying all of you would have, but I am saying that this dot vote is a method that we have created. We have not created it yet, but on click is a method, so it has to run this function once we click, when this on click is performed. So this is not, we are not accessing anything related to state. So we have to create the function still. Let's save this. It says cannot read the property bind of undefined because we have not created the method. So before we do that, let's remove this. So let's copy it and save it. So we should see the button now. It says Bali and London. So let's, before we put the function and before it starts working, let us first go to our app.css and make the respective changes. So this is on click, nothing's happening. Alright, so let's go to our app.css and make the respective changes. So let's give it a star, that is together everything, the margin will be at 0 pixels and the padding will be at 0 as well. Now once this is done, we can give the body some text align. So I wanted to put, as I said earlier, I wanted it to be in the center. Then we can give it a color of, let's say, #222. Then we can give a font size of 20 pixels. And if you want, you can put a font family, but I am not going to do that. But okay, let's just put a font family. You can choose whatever you want. It will go order-wise. So H1, let's give it a margin of 30 pixels. And let's save this. So this should be your app right now. This is just the basic. We need to make more changes to our app. It looks way too basic and this is not a nice app to be created. We'll have to change some button input and everything else. Let's go back to our Visual Studio Code and see what we need. So here it's locations and each location shall be accessed here. Here it's all the locations, which will take all of them together. So we'll make some changes to that. So head over to your app.jss and right here, let's go to dot locations. So let me give you a tip. Whenever you style anything, go accordingly. So first it's locations and then it's location and then this and then that. So and then the button. So go accordingly and not in a haphazard way. So let's go ahead with locations first. And here let's give it a height of 400 pixels and a width of, this is the entire box. So if you're wondering what's happening, you can head over to your developer tools and here you can see that it has a height of, okay, I'm not able to see it here. So let's go, sorry, this would be for the entire locations. This is not for this particular location, but it will be for locations. So we can see that we have a height of 400 pixels. Alright. Then we'll make changes with the width. Now the width can be 400 pixels as well. And right after this, we can change the display to flex. I hope you've seen CSS flex and with the flex direction of columns. So it can be a column. Save this. Alright. So this has to move here. Let's make those changes as well. Now I want to change the let's give it a margin of 10 pixels and so that it will be in the center. You saw it to the left. I want it to be in the center. Now let's head over to our each location. That was locations, that was all of them. Now let's head over to each one of them, that's location. So here we will be changing flex to 1 and you can see the changes respectively. I will say display flex. I want it to be in a column, so that's why I'm making all these changes. And then I'm going to justify the content to space between. So there will be some space between. and let's align the items to center. Now it looks better. Let's make this bigger, and right here let's just give it some padding of 13 pixels and 40 pixels. You cannot see the padding in here because you can see it in your this thing. So background color shall be hashtag 6D6875. Alright, so that's a bit dark, and let's give it a border of 1 pixel solid. Let's say hashtag 222. Now you might be wondering how all of these are different. So we just gave it a flex of 1, so each will become 1, and it's in a column. So you can see how this has turned up, and each of if you remove the border, you won't be able to see you won't be able to know if they're all different, but they're aligned in a column, but they don't look like that. So then let's just give it a margin of 2 pixels. Alright, so we gave some space right here after the border, and after this let's just give it a color of E5, E5, E5. That's beautiful. That's just perfect. So then we'll have to make changes to the button and the vote count as well. Now basics are done. Let's just give it a vote now. Let's add the functionality, and when you click it, it has to increase. So head over to your app.js, and in your app.js, right after the class app, let's give it a function just before render. And here, what was the name that we gave to our button? So we haven't done that, so let's on click this dot votes dot bind this with I, and this will get binded to our app right up here, the method that we create. Let's give it a vote, and it takes the input I. So now what's happening is that this is getting bind, and this is the input that is going to vote. Now for the vote function, the method, this is getting bound the value that we are mapping, and the index value is going as an argument to the vote method. Now here, let new location let's new locations is equal to this, or we'll do the destructuring. So this dot state. So we've done this in our to-do app as well. So what happens is it accesses the locations and it destructures everything and puts it as each of them as an array, and you can go ahead and look up about destructuring. It's a quite interesting topic. And here you can say locations, so all the values get stored in new locations. And once we have done this, you can go to new locations and we can access the index value. So each time map happens, so it goes as 0, 1, 2, 3. That is 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now each of those have been sent here on click as a parameter, and it's accessed the argument here. And here we can access each of the index. So it will be new location 0, new locations 1, new locations 2, and new locations 3. The third index will get accessed of this, and right here I can say dot vote. I can access the votes value inside of new locations. So new locations has all these values destructured and stored here. Now I can access the name and the votes, but I want to increase the votes value, and this is a number. So you can see that, see, it says votes number right here. So I can increment it. That's all. It's as simple as that. And now once this is done, I'm going to change the state. So this dot set state. Now what will I set the state to? I will be setting the state to the locations. I will be changing the state. So obviously I will be changing the state to new locations. It is super simple. Now here we are just incrementing vote. The name will still be the same. So Bali will still be there in new locations. But the vote, the number would have changed. It would have changed to +1 for whichever index value that we are accessing. And we are changing that in our state using this dot set state. So let's save this. And we can click here. And we're not able to see the number. There is some sort of an error. Let's look it up. There are no errors here. It's perfectly fine. The votes method is also working. Let's go here and right click and inspect. For children attribute, it is the cached value of string in 34, 33 and 31. Okay. Let's stat. So there's some sort of an error here. Something related. Oh, okay. It's not votes. It's votes. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, so that's why we were not able to see the values here. I was wondering why were the values not seen here. I thought they would display once we start voting, maybe some sort of an error. But anyways, please do make changes. It's not vote, it's votes. There are multiple votes here. This is what we put here, so it depends on what we are accessing. We're not accessing vote. So now when we go ahead and click, the value still does not change. Now there must be some sort of an error again. This will be votes here as well. So this is nice because you need to learn how to debug when you create multiple when you work on projects. You need to know how to debug as well. It is a very important aspect. I do make mistakes and it is not votes. I am trying to access vote and increase it. Now the votes value is 0 and that's why it is showing 0. Now when I increment it, I am not incrementing votes, I am incrementing vote, which does not even exist. Now when I say votes, that property exists. You can see votes is a number, but vote it says any. When you check it up in the code editor, when you just hover over it, don't click on it, it says any. But when you say votes and you hover over it, it says number. So that's when we know we're accessing a number. Let's save this. And now it should be working. So I choose Bali, someone chooses London, someone chooses Berlin. So the click function is working perfectly fine. Now I had mentioned earlier when we were doing events in our first module that here we are not using components. I mean in the events we were not using components. We were trying to increase the value by re-rendering the entire thing. But here we have used a component that is app.js. We have ran a function and we have used that component here. So it gets rendered each time we vote or each time we click on it. There are a few more changes that needs to be done. That will be to our click and some app.css, but all the functionality is done and it is working perfectly fine. If you want, you can change the entire outlook of your web app and then host it. We will host it as well. I will teach you how to do that. Now before that, let's make some changes to our app.css and let's make the changes to our count as well. So that will be vote count. I told you we need to go in hierarchy, so we did it for this, we did it for location. Let's do it for vote count. Now in your app.css, just go ahead and say vote count. and in your vote count, open the brackets, and here we can say border radius can be 50%, and then right after this we can display flex again, and then there can be justify content to center, and then we can align the items to center. Now once we've done this, we can change the color to hashtag E5 again, so we can put the same thing. Now if you want to change the place, we can go ahead and put it after the name. So let's see how that, alright, so okay, we have put it to the center, but this is not in the center, so we can try to increase the height and the width to at least about 400. We'll give them some space. Let's actually make it, okay, so that'll be 450 and 450. Now we can make some changes to the button, and once we have done this, before we do that, I want this to be in the center itself. So let's see. Now here it's basically in the entire thing, so the margin is the problem. Now let's go to head over to locations, and okay, the margin is not a problem, so let's continue. There's everything's fine, but okay, so let's concentrate on that a little later, but for now let's concentrate on the button. How do we access the button? We can go to location and then buttons. It's as simple as that. So dot location button. We'll quickly make changes to the button. So hashtag FCA311. This will give you a nice golden kind of a color or a yellow, and you can give it a background color of hashtag 0000. Alright, it's just 4 zeros, and then border is none. We can change the font size a little. Let's see how much we can change it to. For now, let's say 20 pixels. I remove the borders, and there's no border, but the click does not look nice. I can change it to a little bigger, 30 pixels. Okay, I think that's a little too big. Let's just make it at 25. Alright, I think it'll be 30 is better. Or you will not know how to vote. So outline shall be none, and the cursor can be made to a pointer only for the button. So when we go ahead, when we pointed it, it becomes a cursor. It becomes a pointer. You can see that. Now let's try to hover it. Let's try to hover the button. So that will be dot location button. It'll give it a nice look, a nice front end. So there'll be a color of hashtag 1D3557. You can put whichever color you want when you hover it, and I'm going to say font weight to be bold. So once we save this and we do that, the color gets changed. You can make any sort of changes that you want. So when you click it, the functionality works, and we will deploy this as soon as we fix this problem. So to make that change, we cannot make any changes here. Let's just put it back because it will be in a corner and it won't bother us. So once we save this, it will just be relative to the position, so this will not move. So once you go here, it will hover. So when you say Bali, London, Berlin, or Belgium. So that's about it. That's your destination. We can increase the size if you want of the entire body. You can make it 25 pixels. Looks bigger. I think that's better if it's when you're accessing it. So you can access it in your mobile phone as well. So next time when you're going for a family vacation, this will be a nice application and you can impress your family with your skills. So let's go ahead and deploy this.